Yes, I'm Tom Reardon, Reardon, and I'm a professor at Michigan State University and also a non-resident fellow at International Food Policy Research Institute. It really came out of my own experience trying to mentor myself. When I was a young researcher in the 1980s, had a lot of data, had a lot of field work experience, but I just could not make the jump to light speed to start writing articles. And I was going from IFPRI to Michigan State University, and I knew that for tenure, I need to start writing articles, but also more than for tenure, I really wanted to make the results of the research that I was doing known in the world and have an effect on the policy debate. I began to study the articles of good journal article writers. I get up on the board and I, just for myself, began to do flowchart tracing out how articles are structured, good articles. And then I picked, let's say, 20 good articles, and then I would trace them out on the board, and I realized that over and over again, there was really the same structure. And I realized also that I read in the Book of the Samurai in the 1600s, I was looking at enter into form in order to exit from form. I got very enthusiastic about sharing this method with other researchers, with my graduate students, with colleagues, with collaborators. I also felt like a lot of people had good research or potentially good research, but it was like a light kept under a bushel. You know, people didn't know about the research, or it was published in some very local journal that maybe like what they often call parasitical journals or predatory journals that were not, really read internationally, not cited, not part of the international debate. This is a fantastic question. I think it's a false dichotomy, a false contradiction. And that trade-off, or that belief in a trade-off, has kept a lot of good research from affecting the general debate. I give talks, I give policy briefs, and what I do is it's packaging. So you have an article, and the article is of a structure that tests a hypothesis. What is it traditionally thought is the situation? And then you use empirical research to test whether that's true. But the points are exactly the same. It's just a matter of packaging it for two different audiences. And that then also means that as an academic researcher working with an interest to affect policy, you need to also be choosing relevant topics that the policymakers are going to want to know about. And in that case, in a sense, knowing that you're going to turn something into a practical policy brief for government, you work backward and make sure that the work that you're doing is of relevance, okay? And so I don't see any contradiction at all. It's just a matter of packaging. First, to present the basic structure and method of writing articles. Understand how to read the literature, how to map what have been the strands or the waves of the literature, coming up with specific gaps that are in the literature that you're going to approach, let's say a specific gap. And then what is your research question? And then how to form a research question, how to form hypotheses that are contradictory, that create excitement on behalf of the reviewer to be interested in the empirical test. Then secondly, I will give examples from good articles, big articles historically, and what they did, how they did it, so that you get a feeling for how they did a research discovery, especially the art of toggling, where you take something and flip it and find a new way of looking at the question and then publishing. And then third, I'll talk about my own experience with fast writing, okay, basically speed writing, where you form the dense outline of the structure of the article, and then you populate it with the points, and you can quickly produce articles instead of slowly with a, long prose directed writing. Relative to the world literature on a number of subjects, the number of visible internationally African articles, African authored, first authored articles, it's disproportionately small. And I watched this revolution myself for India and China, where they changed their incentive systems in universities to favor international publication and not just, in local journals or some of the predatory journals. And when they began incentivizing that and requiring it, you see Chinese and Indian authors now leading articles around the world. That wasn't true 10, 20 years ago. And so I think Africans, both on the subject of specific things in Africa and on general debates in the world, should be major players. And secondly, for young researchers, especially that are trying to break through and publish their research, to arm yourselves with a technique that can make it mechanical, can overcome mental blocks, get out into the international sphere with these publications, is really important, right? Third, I think you need to be the mavericks that are testing the conventional wisdom, shaking up the debate, shaking up the policy, discussions, and therefore become even more useful by using the powerful weapon of research and publication to set the debate. Thank you.
ANAPRI, advancing Africa's agriculture through policy research and influence.